memorizing digits of pi are pretty simple. First of all, you must recite the digits from memory. Recite them, not write them. Reciting them requires a much higher level of memory than writing them out. Rule number 2, you get 1 restart. So as you're saying them, if you mess up, you get 1 restart. Rule number 3, you must recite in front of the class. The pressure of being in front of their peers is part of the challenge. It definitely adds a level of difficulty to be able to learn to control your nerves and your fear of being in front of people. I always did 1 point per digit if you're keeping score, and they had to at least say 3.14 because that's just the common estimate for pi that we use when we're calculating in mathematics. Some tips that you may want to consider, because I've done this for a long time, and these are some things that I found problematic. One thing, the student faces you with the wall behind you. So as the teacher, you're standing with a wall or something behind you that does not have any digits of pi on it, and the student stands in front of you and faces you. You are holding a copy of the digits of pi, and I always had kept it on my stand here. That way they couldn't see through it, and I would have a pencil and I would go through and keep track of what digit they were on. Now, I had my copy marked with a divider every 5 digits, sometimes every 10 digits, so it was really easy to tell how far they had gone and to count it. The student has the audience behind them, so therefore they cannot see their peers because I wouldn't want anybody to be giving them any hints. So their back is to the audience, they are facing you, and then you stop them as soon as they make a mistake. So if they say something like 3.1415927, I would say stop. It's actually 26535. You may restart if that was their first turn. I would give them a restart. And then they could go on from there. But always on their first chance, I told them the correct digit, and then I would let them restart. If they were like, well, that's as far as I memorized, I would say, well, take a guess. See if you can guess what the next digit is. And there was one student who actually guessed the next 10 digits. Now, whether or not they actually studied them and were recalling them and thinking they were guessing, I don't know. But they guessed, they added 10 more points to their score. I also sometimes had another student keeping track, or other students on other teams, because we always did this as part of an Olympic Games, just to keep track, for their own, kind of keeps them involved. Helps me also because there are occasions when I would get off track of what number they were on. I always kept records year by year of who said the most digits the year before and who had said the most overall. And year by year it got more and more. It started out in the 50s and 60s and then went into the hundreds and then into the 200s and then into the 300s. The student who said the most, I cannot remember exactly how many he said, but it was well over 300 digits. Shout out to Brian there. People tried for 3 years to break his record and were unable to do it. That also helps to motivate students because they can see what people have done in the past. Their peers, they can see what their peers have done in the past, and it motivates them to try harder for the goal and for the record. I also put a reward on it, especially the higher it got. I would put a $20 cash reward on it. That is always a motivator to students. You may not be able to do that, but some sort of a reward is always motivating when people see somebody actually attaining that reward. So the Digits of Pi contest was always a part of a larger unit I did that was a week-long unit on or around March 14th, which is Pi Day. It's also Einstein's birthday. And before this, long before Pi Week, I would hand out copies, 1-page copies of a chunk of pi. It's usually several thousand digits on that one page, or at least 1,000, 1,500, depending on your font, which is well more than any student could memorize. I always gave that out at the beginning of the year by choice. I would tell them what's happening, describe it, show them kind of how it works, and then I would let people try it because there are some kids that are really good at memory. And then as the year progressed, I would remind them every so often of the Digits of Pi contest coming up in March. You know, our record is 350 some digits. And then the week before the competition, every day I would remind them, and I would recite the Digits of Pi that I have memorized, because after doing this competition for probably, if not all 25 years of my teaching, I know more than 20, because me and some of the other math teachers I used to work with used to make a big deal. We'd go to the auditorium, we would have the competitions on the stage during math class. It was great fun. There are also apps and songs that you can find on YouTube that help people memorize pi. There is one that does 200 digits of pi. The only thing about it is it says reciting random digits for your friends. I'm like, pi's not random. It's the same every single time. And I would always say that when we would play that song for the kids. But then there's also something called Pi Brain, and it's an app, and I believe you can still get it. But Pi Brain app is actually an app designed to help you memorize pi. There's a memory part to it, and then there's a recitation part to it where you're typing it out. It can help, but since my competition was verbal recitation, it can help them with memory, but it can also become a crutch. So I had a student who would actually touch his hand in the same way that the keys were arranged on the app, which he didn't have anything on his hand with any numbers on it. He would just do this as he was reciting, because that was how he memorized it. And since he wasn't looking at any numbers, I allowed it. But he was actually one of our record breakers. That was Matvey. Shout out to Matvey, who broke the record before it by over 50 digits. It was great. I wonder how many digits of pi I can still say. Let's see. 3.14159265358979323846643383502 88. That's as far as I can get. But my last year teaching, I said almost 60 digits of pi, and that was just from me hearing it for 6 hours a day, at least 5 kids every day during Pi Week for so long. It's stuck in my head. Super fun. Have fun with your kids. Try memorizing it with your students. Have other teachers in the building to see how many they can say, if they'll join in the fun. It's always great to have your teachers and your other colleagues kind of play along with your students.